Chad Bowden said there are no more excuses. That means everything's in place with the 2026 schedule. It's perfect, lots of opportunities. And USC has plans to make the playoffs. I got Chris Trevino from WeAreUSC.com. He's back. We're going to talk about what Chad said, plus a whole bunch more.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Locked On USC. I am Marc Kulkin, your host. I'm also a columnist over there at WeAreUSC.com. That's my partner in crime, the lead writer, publisher, Chris Trevino. Chris, welcome back to the show. Thanks for doing it again. Got a lot of positive feedback the last time you were here, so I figured, you know what? Let's try it again. See if we can double down. I think we're going to make it happen. The other day, Chad Bowden, he was interviewed on the Trojans live show, that weekly show they do with Jordan Moore as the host. In case anyone missed it, in case any of the everydayers here at Locked On USC, you missed it, here's what Chad Bowden had to say, and where he said there's no excuses in 2026. And Chris, I'm going to have you comment about this. Quote, the schedule is perfect. It's exactly what the program needs it to be. I think the Big Ten did a great job. I've had a lot of different people come up to me, whether it's donors, fans, a lot of different people have talked to me about the schedule. We don't need excuses. That's not what we're looking for. We are ready. This is a great football team. They love each other. It's a great staff. This is the most perfect schedule for this program. We cannot wait to play those games, end quote. Chris, did he get out a little bit too far over his skis? Did he put that target on Lincoln Riley and the team's back?
Maybe is my official answer, Mark. Maybe. But also, isn't that what you want to hear if you're a USC fan? Isn't that the perfect answer? Maybe the schedule isn't the most perfect schedule in the history of Big Ten scheduling. Maybe that's a little bit too much. But that's what you want to hear as a USC fan, because you've been wandering in the desert. You're trying to get back to the playoff, or you haven't been to the playoff. You're trying to get back to that stage. So excuses can't be had. This is year 5 for Lincoln Riley. You came really close, and then, we know what happened in between that 2022 season where you came a hamstring away. So, it's the bravado of Chad Bowden. He's very confident in the program that he's building. He's been to the playoff. So if he says, no excuses, this is what USC needs. This is the standard at USC. We've heard him talk about that. This is a team that needs to perform. That's what you want to hear. Will they perform? Well, that's the big question of 2026, Mark. Will they handle the schedule? And again, I kind of want to hear that. There's no excuses. There's no excuses, because you've heard them all before, Mark.
Trust me, I'm up to here with the excuses. I got no more room for them. Now, when he says the perfect schedule, my listeners know how I feel about the USC Notre Dame rivalry not being part of the schedule anymore. Besides that, I think I agree with Chad when he says it's the perfect schedule in this regard. The way it's set up, there's a bunch of pivotal games this year. There's I call it the 5-game swing that USC has to go 3-2 and win the rest of their games. You get the 3 easy non-conference games out of the box. Fresno State probably being the toughest of those. Coliseum will be charged up because Fresno State brings fans to begin with as well. So you should be 3-0. You ease into the conference slate. You travel across the country to go play Rutgers. You come back 4-0. Boom. All of a sudden, you got that nemesis of late for USC, Oregon, coming into town. I'm on record on saying that that 5th game of the year is going to be it's the fulcrum point. It's good, USC season is going to tip one way or the other. Is it the tipping point, though? I know USC can still make the playoffs with a loss. However, if you're going to split between Oregon and Ohio State, which way are you going with this? Because of all the other things that go on with recruiting, all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is the fork in the road of the season. Like, which path are you going to take? As you know, as a lot of USC fans know, Oregon has been that itch that USC cannot scratch. They cannot, haven't beaten them. They need to beat Oregon. Like, this is the game. Like, you played there on the road. They're coming to you. You have them in Los Angeles. You have a good team. You have a good team. You have a good offensive line. You have good running backs. You have Jayden Maiava coming back at quarterback. You have, some pieces on defense. You're hopefully going to be better on defense. This is your opportunity. This is your shot to beat Oregon on your turf, get that momentum going to Washington, Penn State, the second stretch of this season. It's in your favor right
Yeah,
now. Again, the schedule is tough, but you have some good opportunities, and this is that first big one with taking down, a college football playoff team and a caliber team that will be competing for it in 2026. This is where you can start that real momentum. Yes, 4-0, you're there, you're nice. Everyone's gonna be talking about it. It's gonna be hype around this game. College game day, maybe? I don't know. But that would be a great start to really setting you off on a schedule that is no excuses. You have to beat Oregon. Like, you just have to. As much of a thorn in their side that have been, like, this is your opportunity. You have to take that shot. We know they play much better at home. It has to be a dub leaving the Coliseum.
yeah. The other one of the other things that Chad spoke about on the Trojans live show is he wants that Coliseum vibe. He thinks USC has the greatest fan base in the country, and I was like, bro, ease up. Oh, let's pump the brakes. USC has the most bandwagon fan base. I will go that far. If you're winning, they'll show up, and they will show up in droves. With that being said, if you can get that same type of vibe that the Coliseum had last year when USC throttled Michigan, that's maybe the edge that this program needs when you're playing these games. And like you said, USC has the advantage. You get Oregon at home. A week later, you get Washington at home. Halloween, you get Ohio State at home. Yeah, that does set up a perfect schedule. And you have the tough road games only and I say from a venue point of view, Wisconsin, Penn State. We don't know how good they're going to be. We know it's going to be a tough environment. And then, if USC is they're playing 3 preseason top 5 teams, Oregon, Ohio State. You got Indiana looming in November. If USC beats Oregon, follows that up with Washington, all of a sudden now, all the cards on the table. This team literally should have all the momentum they need to know, all right, we can beat anybody. We can beat anybody. I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated, but yeah, that's why that game against Oregon, I think, it really is going to be the tipping point. There's still plenty of time to recover after that, should they lose. But I think what it does for this program if they win, it cannot play. You cannot quantify it.
Yeah, the season isn't dead if you lose to Oregon, but you gotta take your shot, and it's got to be
Yeah.
against Oregon. And you need to get out of there with the win. I mean, just talk about like confidence for a team that hasn't beaten Oregon and struggled, and you know, they're trying to erase the demons of that 2020, whatever you want to call it, Pac-12 championship game.
The
You in the
COVID game.
Coliseum. Yeah, you want to erase that and get a new standing in this rivalry and get back in the win column. So just the confidence of beating a college football playoff team and a Big Ten contend like a championship contender and doing it on in your home stadium. Like, yeah, just talk about like rocket fuel moving
Oh,
forward. And again, yeah, it would be uh, outstanding for USC to get that kind of momentum, which they didn't really get last year. Michigan, yeah, that was really nice, but to be able to do it against like a legit college football playoff contender, Big Ten contender, that would do wonders for the season moving forward.
without a doubt. I literally think it would be the springboard to something that could be really special. You don't want to get, like I said, I don't want to get too ahead, too far over my skis like maybe that Chad Bowden did. But still, you think about the possibilities. There's a lot of opportunity this year. USC is returning 17 starters, the most in the conference, 9 on offense, 8 on defense. And there's a lot of versatility with this roster. We'll see what they're able to do with it. Speaking of the roster, let's do a little spring camp recap in the next segment. And then we'll follow it up in the third segment of, what we should anticipate going forward during the summer leading into fall camp. That's all coming up next.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Corey Close, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, real quick, thanks everyone for making Locked On USC your first listen of the day, as well as making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network. I know a bunch of you want to listen to the show on your favorite platform, ad-free, no interruptions. Now's your chance. Go check out the link in the subscription page. You also get the first month free. All right, Chris, spring camp is over, which means, well, at least I do. I have to find life outside of my job, which is going to be a lot easier. It's going to be a lot easier than doing something. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I have 3 questions for you. On a holistic level, what's the biggest spring takeaway? Offensively, is Riley going to be able to make it work with the new pass catchers? And defensively, can Gary Patterson keep the defense in the game for a full 60 minutes? So let's start with the first picture. What was your biggest spring takeaway?
My biggest spring takeaway. Now you could either go small, you could go big, you could go a lot of different ways. But for me, I want to do like kind of in the middle. I think the linebacker room is going to be okay. That's an embattled position group. I know a lot of people were a little salty. I know you, Mark, included, were a little salty. They didn't go out and get more linebacker help, more transfer help. Devin Bryant, nice little piece, but,
Sure.
it's not the sizzle that you wanted. So they're doubling down. And again, that could end up blowing up in their face very, very easily. Linebacker group has, struggled last couple of seasons, and they're looking for a breakthrough, and they're one of the keys to the defense working next season, along with some other things. But I just really like what Mike Eckler has added to that group, and the detail and the juice. And again, it's not all about that, but I think he is a really good coach. I think he's a really good teacher, and it seems like they're really buying in. And I know we all loved Desmond Stephens going into last season. We saw the
Sure.
potential, and it didn't quite work out. There were flashes of it. You saw the growth at the end of the season. He's like a post hype guy, like to pick. It's like, okay, we see the talent. You're hoping junior year it all clicks a lot better than it did, and he plays faster, and he's got it all down. Probably going to be the Mike once again. So, I'm still in on Desmond Stephens. I know it's going to took some growth last year, a lot of growing pains, a lot of lumps, but at the end of the day, you know, I'm willing to forgive a little bit more of the doubling down because I think they have some good options in that room. And I really like the combination with Mike Eckler. So I think that's kind of one of my big spring takeaways is that I feel better about the linebacker room. Not saying, everyone in that room is going to be all American, but I'm saying I just think you're going to see improvement across the board with the guys they have in there, in addition to Mike Eckler leading that room.
Do you think that Desmond Stephens' body looks more like a linebacker now, and that could possibly help him as well? Look, I think we just have to be, pretty pragmatic about this. The Big Ten conference is still about big bodies, and sometimes USC's linebackers, they were getting washed up by the opposing offensive linemen, whether they were getting to that second level or not. Even if USC's linebackers were where they were supposed to be, they weren't able to shed those blockers, and that was just part of the problem.
Yeah, he definitely looks bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Like Tremaine Carroll has earned his paycheck with some guys, and he's one of them. Maybe it's the new number that's making him fill out, but he looks a little bit taller. He looks a little bit thicker. And you hope
Yeah,
obviously the athleticism is still there with a guy, former safety, who's still learning the position as we need to like remind people. So yeah,
right.
circle Desmond Stephens. I'm still in on number 8, the new number 8.
I agree. And hopefully if they get some more help up front or better production up front, that always makes the linebackers' job that much better. Saying on the defensive side before I go back to the offensive question. Defensively, can Gary Patterson, Mike Eckler, Paul Gonzalez, Sam Carter, those are the new guys, along with, Trovon Reed and Sean Nua and Skylar Jones. Is Gary Patterson the missing link to getting this defense ready to go from the opening whistle to the final gun to keep, USC in the game?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't want to give a definitive answer. I was kind of, I don't know where you stood when the hire was made, but it's obviously like a boomer bust hire. Like it could go either way. I feel like it could go either way. He's obviously a coach that knows defense. Like he's forgotten more about defense than some of these coaches know
Yes.
about defense. Like he's in it, and he's a student of the game still, an old master, if you will. So he knows football. He knows defense, but it's obviously a different game. Getting back into it, that's a little bit of worrisome. But, just seeing him out there, the way he's getting after it, he's a football coach. And, he looks like he's rejuvenated, looks like he's having fun out there. And, obviously he's brought some young coaches with him, Paul Gonzalez, Sam Carter. They have Mike Eckler.
Yep.
I don't know how old he is, but he's running around like a teenager out there. So just the detail and the teaching and, if the safeties are as good as I think they'll be with his tutelage and, that's what his bread and butter is, I think there's enough in there to like have a solid to above average defense. Again, they don't need to be like top 5 in the country. I don't think that's what it is. They just need to be solid to above average. And I think that's in there. I'm not really to say fully like pound the table. Yes, it's going to work out, but I do feel better leaving spring camp about the Gary Patterson experience, just knowing, he's a Hall of Famer and you got to give him some trust that he knows what he's doing. I know he's coming back after being out of the game for a little bit, but no one's going to be grinding as hard as Gary Patterson. And I think that's a huge win for USC.
Yeah, I think what USC fans want to see is the defense getting off the field on 3rd and 7, making a tackle on, 3rd and forever that doesn't lead to a game-winning touchdown for the other team. Just, the little things, fundamentals, doing the right thing. And, as far as special teams, real quickly, don't take the lead and then give it up because, you're allowing a touchdown return for a touchdown, a kickoff return for a touchdown. Or, if you're in a tight game and you're on the road, you can't give up a punt return for a touchdown. It's those types of things. And I think if Gary Patterson and Mike Eckler can just make have that much of an effect, USC wasn't terrible on defense last year. They just, they weren't good at the wrong times. And I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it makes a lot of sense. At the most inopportune time, they would show their worst. And I don't know if Gary Patterson or Mike Eckler, personality-wise, will allow that. So we'll find out. Now, offensively, before we close out this segment, look, I feel really, 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 really good about the offensive line room. There's just so much option, so much versatility there. Even though 2 of your starters missed spring because they were rehabbing, I feel really good about the running back room. I feel really solid about Jayden Maiava going into his 3rd year with Lincoln Riley. Plus, he has a year of starting experience at UNLV. So he's got a lot of starts under his belt. The pass catchers. Lincoln Riley said after, the 14th day of spring camp that he feels good about them. where are you? I know we got some good thoughts, about some of these younger guys, but should we be concerned that Zacharias Williams wasn't able to finish spring camp?
No, not for me.
Okay.
I'm willing to give you a yes on that. I'm willing to give you a hell yes on that.
Oh
I
yes.
too, I too feel good about the young pass catchers. Obviously, losing a literal Blitnikoff guy, Makai Lemon, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna
Sure.
hurt. Losing Jacoby Lane, top 3 round NFL pick, probably. If
Probably.
if teams are smart and take him that early, you know, those are losses. Those are big losses. But USC has the horses, I think, and obviously, the I don't think you're not gonna get a Makai Lemon season. You're not, but I think there's a lot of confidence in that room, and just looking at that, Tanuk Hines, I think is a dude. Tanuk Hines a dude. Terrell Anderson, I think, still getting the chemistry down, but easily could be a breakout guy. Has experience, 6'2", can jump out of the building. Not like Jacoby, but he's got some hops. And then you just take some young guys that will come along during the season. Trent Mosley, Mark Bowman, like we kept continue to hear incredible things about those guys out of spring camp. And Booby Feaster, we haven't seen him yet, but a lot of people
Right.
think he's can be plug and play right away, at least in the rotation. I know some people like he's going to start day one. Let's slow down a little bit, but I think he's going to play. Again, it's going to have to be more committee this year, but
Sure.
I like the committee that they have. Corey Sims, don't let me forget about Corey Sims. He's out for blood this year. He wants to play. He wants to make some of those passes he missed in the Alamo Bowl. So I like the pieces they have, around Tanuk, who, should be the number one, moving forward, has the best chemistry, just the guy who can go up and make that tough catch, lightning speed. I just like the pieces in that room. Now, it might all not fit together right away as they kind of like still build game speed chemistry with Jayden. But at the end of the day, you need them for that Oregon game. You need them for Washington. You need them moving forward. So I think those first 4 games is going to be about building that. And at the end of the day, I think they'll get what they need out of that room to be successful.
So, Chris, we've got a $1 subscription special going on over there at wersc.com. You already put out your depth chart after spring camp, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Since we were just talking about the pass catchers, take us out of this segment. What is your depth chart with the wide receiver room? And I'll add this little extra caveat. Who has a better season, Tron Baker or Trent Mosley?
Ooh, okay. I'm going to be honest. It's Trent Mosley for me. I
Okay.
have him as one of the starters. He was kind of battling Zacharias on that inside position, and it seemed like it was kind of those two guys jockeying. Obviously, Zacharias ended a little banged up, opened the door more for Trent, and he was my pick going into the spring. My pick coming after the out of spring camp, and I have Terrell Anderson and Tanuk Hines as the other two in that room. Tanuk Hines, no brainer.
Sure.
Terrell Anderson, I just think he's
Makes
going to be a
sense.
guy. He's a junior guy, experience, brings that 6'2" size that they need in the lineup. Trent and Tanuk, they're not cracking 6'2", so I think you need that size. So those are the 3, and I think Tron obviously had a really good spring. We'll see if it sticks around into fall camp. Obviously, you got Tanuk coming out, taking an outside spot. Terrell will probably push more. Maybe he moves inside. Who knows? But I think Trent would be my pick as an older freshman, if you
Right.
will, just doing a lot of work against these guys every day. It seems like we hear like Trent Mosley, he's good, he's good, he's good.
Who's your dark horse out of that room?
Dark horse,
Yeah.
not including Tron. I think Luke Weaver is someone we haven't really talked a lot about this spring, but 6'3", really good speed relative to his size. If you
Yeah.
want more juice, can go up and make a tough catch. He could be someone that, got their legs under them in spring and then in the fall camp, summer, just kind of takes off and it's like, oh, where's this guy been? Sometimes that light just goes on a little sooner, especially for receivers. It's easier for receivers to get hot early. And so I would think number 80, Luke Weaver would be my pick there.
All right. I can get on that. I can get on the Luke Weaver train. All right, we got one more segment to go, Chris. What's up next? What should we all? What should you and I anticipate? What should the fans anticipate? That's kind of a broad question, so you can go any direction you want with that. That's coming up next. So there's something called workplace chaos. There's deadlines at work, email box overflowing. You got an office space that needs to get filled. When the pressure is on and you need that to make that right hire, this is your job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, the skills, the experience, the right location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that's going to say it all. In this 1 minute I'm going to be talking to you, companies like your own, 27 of them had made a hire on Indeed, and that's according to the Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So just go to Indeed.com/podcast. Do it right now. Support our show by saying you heard about it at Locked On USC. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And what if the markets were traded like sports? What if sports were traded like the markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, just never had that dynamic way to apply the knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. All you got to do is download the Robinhood app to your phone. Futures and cleared swaps involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, Chris. So what's next? I mean, the way I see it, spring camp ending, it's not the finish line, right? It's kind of like that handoff. This is where I think the team leadership is going to kind of take over. It's going to decide if they're going to be part of the playoff discussion, even though we're still in April, May, June, most of July. All this is going to be up for conversation. So I guess what's next and what actually matters the most between now and the start of fall camp?
Summer workouts, summer PRPs, continuing to build that bond. I remember back in the day, and I say back in the day like it was just like 6 years ago or whatever, but we could watch PRPs and
Yes.
see those guys out there running around. And my first ever thing I covered at USC as a new beat reporter was a summer PRP. Get to meet the players and, got to be around them as they bond and build and, set the tone moving into fall camp. And so it's nice to hear guys talk about summer PRPs and just continuing to bond as all these guys come in together and, all those new freshmen as they also make the jump. It's hard going straight to college early and handling school and football and playbooks and all that. So we'll see those guys kind of slow down a little bit once you move into the summer workouts and which Coach True and into those PRPs where we'll see leadership take over because, those are player run.
Now getting the players out to PRPs, that's sometimes it's like herding cats because there's so many different schedules that are going on. Some are going to school, taking classes. Others are returning to high school for their graduation ceremonies. In a perfect world, in an almost perfect world, what kind of turnout do you want for these, summer workouts? And besides Jayden Maiava, who else needs to step up as a team leader to kind of set that tone and get that message across?
For me, it'd be a lineman like Elijah Page, Tobias Raymond. I mean, offensive line has to be the tone setter for this season. We look back and some of the stuff we've heard from Zach Hansen and those guys are, we need to be meaner, we need to be nastier, we need to be more dominant. So I think it starts with like the bond of those guys and setting a tone with your veterans, like an Alani Noah, who's not a big speaker, but
Yeah.
Tobias Raymond, Elijah Page, those are your older tackles, linemen, wherever you want to see. Tobias Raymond, maybe it's your starting center. Like he needs to carry that weight as the guy in the middle with that voice. So I want to see those veteran offensive linemen kind of take hold and be big voices in addition to Jayden, because as he mentioned, he's not a rah guy. He's not going to do anything, that feels unnatural to him. So I kind of want one of those guys to be that voice, and I'm circling maybe Tobias Raymond to be that guy.
If you had to pick one of the younger players, when I say younger, obviously freshman, redshirt freshman, sophomore, who would you think steps into that role? Doesn't matter what side of the ball.
Doesn't matter. Ooh, Alex Graham.
Okay.
Alex Graham, fiery guy. I know he didn't play a lot last year, but hey, man, he's one of those guys I'm certainly like, he's going to start this year. And he plays with a chip on his shoulder, and I like the attitude and the swagger he plays with. So I would pick him. I know he's young. I know he's really talented, and he got snake bit by injury last year, but I think he's going to be a really really good player. He's going to have a breakout season. So I would choose him. And as important as that secondary is to the success of this defense, I think you need. I like the vocalness that he could bring.
All right. I can get on board with that as well. All right, Chris, before we get out of here, remind everybody where they can find you. So, WRSC, I know you also do your own podcast show. So tell yourself, pour yourself out there right now.
Yeah, I can you can find me at wearesc.com 4 months for $1. Sign up right now. And me and Mark are over there both. You can find me on my Composite 2-Star Recruits podcast. You can see me there. We're gonna get to talk to coaches next week. That should be fun. And Mark and I are probably gonna break it down. Probably gonna do a video with our video segments that we've been that we started in the spring and we'll carry over to fall camp, to normal weeks in the regular season and game days and stuff. So be locked on with that, if you will. So we'll probably break down everything we hear from the coaches next week at wearesc.com on the YouTube channel.
There you go. Thank you, Chris. That means I won't be curled up in a fetal position waiting for something to happen. You're going to keep me busy.
We got you.
Thank you. Also, thank you again for being here. Hopefully, we're going to make this a regular thing, especially during this off season. Chris, once again, thank you. I'll see you over there at wearesc.com. Take advantage of that $1 subscription special. Also, thank you to everyone for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Until that next episode, which will be tomorrow, you know what to do.